Hello, and welcome to Classic Movie Recaps. Thank you for watching this video. Just a reminder, if you enjoy our content, remember to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel for more sexy favors. Now without further ado, let's begin. Today we are recapping the classic movie, Bullet, where an ex-con from the Bronx is released after 8 years in prison, getting straight back to his criminal lifestyle, while an old enemy from his prison time wants him dead. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. The movie begins as our protagonist, Bullet, is released from prison on parole, after being locked up for 8 years for being involved in a robbery. Bullet says his goodbyes to his fellow inmates, and upon leaving the prison, his brother Ruby and his friend, Lester, are waiting for him. They welcome him home, but Bullet tells them he wants to get busy, so they head to the projects to see who's been running the show since he's been locked up. They arrive at the projects, but Bullet sees some rich teenagers waiting to buy, so he decides to rip them off, approaching their car and posing as a dealer. He explains that their regular dealer is sick, and takes them to the roof of the projects, before robbing the two teens. Bullet and Lester order the teens to strip, taking their money and clothes, before throwing the clothes off the building. Meanwhile, their regular dealer, Flacco, sees the clothing fall off the tower, and realizes his customers have been robbed. Bullet then leaves the projects, and is approached by Flacco, angry over the situation, but the conversation turns violent, with Flacco attempting non-consensual surgery on Bullet, but Bullet puts him down. Bullet tells Flacco to tell his boss that he's back, with Lester explaining that Flacco's boss, Tank, will come after them. But Bullet doesn't care, and they leave the scene, reminiscing on the way to their destination. They drop Lester off to get a sexy favor, and continue home to see their parents. Later that evening, Bullet and his brother have dinner with their parents, with their dad going on a tirade about Bullet not wanting to work and bumming around. He tells Bullet that he's organized a job for him, but Bullet refuses to work for a living, which makes the situation worse. It's clear that both Bullet and Ruby had a good upbringing, but messed up, with both of them becoming good-for-nothing useless bums. Ruby is intoxicated at the dinner table, laughing and talking about art, before their older brother Louis, who suffers from schizophrenia, enters the scene, and announces that he has been accepted into an elite special forces unit, which is top secret, before leaving the dining room. After dinner, Ruby visits his brother Louis, who gives orders to his dog like a soldier, and watches war footage all day, while building his imaginary army of invincible warriors for his war against enemy forces, so Ruby tells him that he loves him and leaves. Louis is clearly suffering mentally, spending his time planning for an upcoming war, training neighborhood kids on military tactics, and giving them speeches on their inevitable victory over the enemy. In the next scene, we see Patty, an old friend of Bullet, getting in Tank's limo, when Tank tells him that Bullet took down Flacco, so he's gotta go. Patty tells Tank that he had no idea Bullet was even released from prison, which angers Tank, as he knows they are old friends, so he tells Patty that he wants him to set up Bullet. It is then revealed that Bullet fought Tank during his time in the pen, which resulted in Tank losing sight in one of his eyes, so he's got a score to settle. He tells Patty that if he can't help him catch Bullet, then he'll come after Patty, so Patty agrees, paying Tank back some money he owes for tasty treats, before leaving the limo. We then cut to a club, where Ruby and Bullet are drinking and enjoying the vibes. Ruby uses a pickup line on a lady, and they head to the dance floor while Bullet sits at the bar, admiring some art Ruby has drawn on a napkin. Bullet then leaves the bar, and takes a seat at a booth to relax, when he is approached by a woman. The two begin flirting with each other, with the woman asking him to dance, but he refuses, telling her to dance while he watches. She then leaves the table, when Ruby takes a seat, and they have a conversation about the artwork Ruby did on the napkin. Bullet tells him he should pursue art instead of getting involved in crime, but Ruby tells him that he doesn't respect the art industry, and it's all bullcrap. So Bullet leaves, trying to get a sexy favor from the woman. Later that night, we see him sitting on a bed in shame, while the woman gets ready to leave, telling him not to worry about it, implying that Bullet's sexy favor attempt failed, due to an extreme case of floppy jalopy. The next day, we see Lester pulling up to Bullet's house in a pink car. It's clear that Lester is full of himself, admiring his reflection and listening to "I'm Too Sexy" while waiting for Bullet. Bullet gets in the car, and they leave to pick up Ruby. Meanwhile, Tank pulls up in his limo to one of his dealers to make a drop. He gives the dealer a strange package, wrapped in a red band, and tells him to make sure it gets to Bullet, but doesn't tell him why. We then cut to Bullet, who decides to buy some candy from a funhouse, entering with Lester and passing through the security checkpoints. The dealer outside, however, sees Bullet, and makes a call to his gang, telling them to get the package ready for Bullet. Bullet makes the buy and takes the package, but suddenly, armed gunmen storm the building, holding customers at gunpoint, and robbing Bullet for his stuff. The gunmen make their escape, firing shots at anybody they see, while Ruby sees it unfold from inside the car, and decides to act. He drives the car forward and speeds up, hitting one of the gunmen, but one of the robbers pulls out a knife and attacks him, while Ruby cowers in fear, before Lester finishes the robber off with a baseball bat, and Bullet rushes to his aid. In the next scene, Bullet is at home with low blood sugar, desperate for candy, so he trashes his room with a baseball bat. While back on the streets, Patty is visiting a local candy shop, when one of his goons finds a candy man. It's one of the armed gunmen who used the product which was meant for Bullet. Patty tells the owner that whoever the Candyman was, he must have angered Tank, so his goons evict him from the premises for being a lazy bum. Later that day, Bullet and Lester are discussing a possible heist of Bullet's neighbor's house. Lester doesn't want to do it, but Bullet convinces him, telling him that his neighbors are rich, and will be on vacation for a few weeks. They decide to rob the place and head into the house, but Lewis, who happens to be walking his dog, is approached by police. The police harass Lewis, talking about his brothers and their crimes, when Lester sees the situation unfold from the window. Bullet doesn't care, and tells Lester not to worry about it, so the two continue robbing the house, while the police continue to question Lewis, before realizing it's a lost cause and leaving. Early next morning, Bullet and Lester look over the stolen goods, agreeing that they can probably get over $25,000, so they leave their house to stash the jewelry, but are startled when Lewis ambushes them with an assault rifle, telling them he knows about their crime, before he lets them go. At the same time, Ruby is hanging from a building, admiring a piece of art he's completed, before morning comes and police attend, telling him to get down, with Ruby giving them the middle finger. We then cut to Bullet's house, where his mom is preparing food, when Lewis enters the room. Lewis talks about Bullet and his negative impact on the family while reading a newspaper, when he sees a stun gun for sale, and begs his mom to buy it. She asks him what it costs, and when he tells her it's over $60, she refuses, causing Lewis to explode in anger, so she agrees to buy it, in order to calm him down. In the next scene, Bullet and Lester head to a Mafia bar to offload the stolen goods. They meet Frankie, an old Mafia friend of Bullet, and the two head to the back of the bar, while Lester waits behind. They sit at a table, and examine the stolen jewelry, agreeing to Bullet's $25,000 asking price. Frankie gives Bullet $5,000 and tells him to come back for the rest later, before trying to convince him to quit chasing candy, which falls on deaf ears. Later that night, Bullet meets his friend Patty, who warns him that Tank is after him, and tried to give him some rotten candy. Bullet remains unfazed, saying that Tank knows where he is, and can get him at any time. Patty then argues with his gang, over Bullet's disruption of their business, and all the drama they've had to face since he's been released, and Patty responds that Bullet was locked up for a robbery they committed together, and Bullet never snitched. Patty's gang then decide to make a move on Tank, to back up Bullet, and to get rid of Tank once and for all. We then see Bullet with Lester and Ruby, hanging out on a basketball court, when Tank approaches with some of his goons. He tells Bullet he won't kill him just yet, instead he wants Bullet to fight one of his boys. Bullet agrees, and the two begin fighting, throwing hard punches at each other while onlookers watch. It's a hard fight, and Bullet starts to get dizzy as he loses, but he turns things around, getting some good hits in, before Tank leaves, and Bullet is carried away in victory. Back at home, Bullet is battered and bruised, when his mom comes out, and sees his face. She tells him that he had so much potential and goes back into the house crying, so Bullet follows her inside, and tries to explain himself, apologizing for his actions, before leaving. Meanwhile, Tank is with his goons at a diner, talking to his lawyer on the phone, when Patty and his gang enter. Patty sits down at the table, telling Tank he knows about the package. He tells Tank that he's backing up Bullet, before guns are drawn, and a shootout occurs, with both sides spraying bullets across the diner, and Tank taking a little girl hostage. Patty tells Tank that Bullet's been his friend since childhood, but backs off to protect the little girl, so Tank escapes. In the next scene, Bullet attends a nightclub called Teddy's to let off some steam, but one of Tank's dealers see him, and calls Tank to give them Bullet's location. Tank is with his goons in his limo at the time, so they head to the club to finish off Bullet. He loads a shotgun, planning out the assassination, before telling his goons to enter through the front, so they can scare Bullet out the back and ambush him. Back in the club, Bullet is in the restroom, when the two teens who he robbed, jump him with a pocket knife. He tells them he doesn't want any trouble, but they attack him, and he immediately disarms them, scaring them with how well he handles himself, and holding them both against the wall. He tells them he wants to show them something, giving them their knife back, and revealing the tracks on his arms. He says they won't survive in the streets, and they should do something better with their lives, before telling them to leave him alone. Meanwhile, Patty enters the club, looking for Bullet, with Tank's goons arriving minutes after. Patty finally finds Bullet, telling him to leave immediately, so they escape the club and enter an alley, when Tank's limo spots them and pulls up. Patty hops a fence and tries to get Bullet to follow, but Bullet has given up, refusing to run and accepting his fate. So Patty gives him his gun, yelling at Bullet, asking why he wants to die before he flees. Tank then exits the limo, with Bullet giving up, dropping the gun, so Tank tells him to pick it up, but he refuses. He tells Tank to pull the trigger, showing he doesn't care anymore, but Ruby rushes out of the club and finds them, begging Tank to let Bullet go. Ruby says that he can pay him back for anything Bullet owes, but Tank reveals his glass eye, and tells him he can't be paid back for what he's lost, what Bullet took. Realizing the danger Ruby is in, Bullet pleads with Tank to let his brother go, as Ruby has nothing to do with it, so Tank agrees, but Ruby refuses to leave. Tank then takes aim, while Bullet takes off his sunglasses and beanie, before he shoots Bullet in the chest, killing him instantly. In the next scene, we are at Bullet's funeral, and Frankie attends, giving Ruby the remaining $20K from Bullet's robbery of his neighbor's house, while Lewis looks on in his uniform. Later that night, we see Tank going to his hideout completely alone, when a masked assassin rappels from the bridge above, killing him from behind. The assassin then opens his balaclava, revealing that it's Lewis, taking revenge for Bullet's death, before the movie ends. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a fantastic day.